All right, well, let's get into some of the research that you guys have been doing, and let's start with that Thigmomorphogenesis in cannabis. What does that term mean, and how can it be applied to cannabis plants?
Cool. Yeah. Thigmomorphogenesis, it's actually a term that was first uh, described in the literature. I think it was around 1973, and it's pretty much the um, the effects of mechanical stimulation on plants. And mechanical stimulation is a very broad term because it can be like directly mechanical stimulation. The mechanical stimulation can come from like sounds or other types of vibration. So, but in general terms, um, the description is the effects of mechanical stimulation on plants.
Okay, so what
Mhm.
are the effects of mechanical stimulation on
No,
cannabis
yeah.
plants?
So, and again, I mean, and we talk about, I think it's that's another thing that is pretty cool about researching cannabis because, um, again, I mentioned the controlled environment agriculture as a production approach and a research approach, but cannabis, regardless the taboo, it's a really cool plant to be used as a model plant because it's a very demanding and very complex plant. Because when you're comparing cannabis production with indoors and let's say tomato production indoors, when you're producing tomatoes, you just care about the biomass and the fruit quality, you
Hmm.
know. So we will try. You're trying to actually provide the optimal growing, conditions to the plant, uh, so the plant will have more biomass and improve fruit quality. But when you talk about cannabis, for cannabinoid production, you're producing secondary metabolites. So it's a fine line between producing biomass and producing uh, plant secondary metabolites, terpenes and cannabinoids. Um, so, and it's a well-known concept that in order to stimulate plant secondary metabolites, you stress is a way to stimulate or uh, create this trigger to increase the production of plant secondary metabolites. Because usually, like a good example that I like to give is like plant secondary metabolites. I mean, I'm saying I'm trying to be more specific because I saw that there are people from other backgrounds, watching the podcast, like more like medical background. So
Sure.
in that, creating a comparison with the medical side is like a adrenaline. Like if I'm not under stress, I'm not going to be producing any adrenaline. If I'm not being stimulated to produce adrenaline, I'm not going to produce that. And it's the same thing for plants. Secondary metabolites is, as the term is saying, is secondary, it's not primary. So the plant can survive without the secondary metabolites. So it's like adrenaline. The plant need a stimulation to produce that plant secondary metabolite. And with that, there are many ways that you can stimulate the plant. Water stress, or even we are kind of debating about saying the term stress or not, because it can be more, instead of stress, it can be considered a stimulus instead of stress, because you're just stimulating the plant, you're not actually reaching that stress. And mechanical stress is one of the ways to to improve or increase this production of plant secondary metabolites. So that's why we decide to use vibration. And I decided to present this specific study at CannMed because this other, abiotic and biotic stress, like for example, water stress, nutrient deficiency, temperature stress, light intensity, they're more common. Mechanical stress is pretty cool, it's pretty new. So, and that's why I decided to present at CannMed that this specific study.
All right. So if I'm following you, So the so
I
the
talk a lot, I know.
no, it's great. No, but it's been said before that the cannabinoids and the terpenes, they are in some ways a defense mechanism.
Hmm.
They're antimicrobial and they may ward off pests or something like that. So with that in mind, so introducing this stimulus or this stress is actually pushing the plants to express those terpenes, those cannabinoids more in response to that stimulus that you're providing it, right?
Exactly, exactly. Because if all the condition, the growing conditions are optimal, the plant will be like, why I will be producing plant secondary metabolite? It's all good, I
Right.
don't really need it. Of course, the genetic part is also, I mean, the plant will naturally produce plant secondary metabolite anyway, but the stimulus can be like a prax or a management to increase the production.